that approves or disapproves. And that is the key. So, all of these things that are supposedly decentralized or whatever, and this was the point I was getting to, is that, they're all decentralized in name only, all these altcoins, right? They claim decentralization. And the reason why they do it, and this is in my article this week on Bitcoin Tech Talk, my newsletter, the reason why they do that is my point. Whereas on Lightning, it's significantly more.
You happy, Danny?
That sounds good to me, yeah.
All right. I want to get into my favorite subject to talk about with you, which is altcoins.
Well, didn't we just do that? Come on.
We talked about Monero. I want to talk about alternative coins, shitcoins. And the reason I want to talk about it with you is our show is always growing, which means there's always new people coming in, which means I'm always getting new emails from people saying, I love the show, I love Bitcoin, but have you not considered ETH? What do you think of Solano? Is it Solana or Solano? I can't remember.
Solana.
You say Solana.
Yeah, Solano. Roberto Solano or Ethernet or Cardano people in the last week. And so I always think it's good to have a refresh on the importance of decentralization, that it isn't a spectrum, that for me, I always think it's what is it directionally? Is it becoming more decentralized or more centralized? If it's directionally becoming more decentralized, that's super important. And is it sufficiently decentralized? But you've covered this over and over. It's always good for a refresh. I love talking about it with you. So, Jimmy, is decentralization a spectrum?
No, it's not. It's a 1 or a 0, okay? Look at the word, decentralization, okay? Does not have a center. If you have a center, it is centralized by definition, right? But it's in the word. So if it's centralized, that means that you can go and shut it down, right? And we're seeing two very good examples because of this Ukraine-Russia conflict. We have OpenSea and MetaMask that banned the Russian users, right? Completely banned them. And everyone in ETH was like, wait, how is it possible that they can do that? I thought this was a decentralized protocol. Well, it's because it's not decentralized. It's centralized, right? You have OpenSea, a company. You have MetaMask, a company. You have, all these other things that are companies. The thing about altcoins is that they are decentralized.
How did it? So they both OpenSea banned users from coming on and using OpenSea just to buy NFTs.
Whatever it is. If you're from Russia, you can't go on OpenSea to buy, sell, or anything. If you're Russian, you cannot go on MetaMask to buy, sell, or anything.
Okay, so OpenSea, I've never used it.
I've never used it.
I'm assuming does it have KYC on it? Is that why?
I've not used it.
Yeah, maybe it has KYC, so it knows where you are. But MetaMask doesn't have KYC, does it?
No, neither of them do. But
so they do it by IP.
Yeah, well, or whatever it is. Yeah, I'm not sure exactly what the mechanism is, but they're banning people. Do you understand the significance?
No, I understand the significance. So I'm wondering, okay, for example, when Coinbase banned 25,000, I'm stuck because my coins are in Coinbase's wallet, which is centralized, and therefore they can stop me moving it out. I used MetaMask once, like 4 years ago. I don't fully understand what it is. It's a company, so is it just a wallet?
Yeah, basically it's a centralized sort of wallet.
So once they banned me, can I not move my coins out of MetaMask somewhere else?
I mean, there might be ways or something like that, but as far as I can understand, no, you can't. If you're part of Russia or something like that.
Why couldn't you just restore your wallet with someone else and do it?
I'm not sure exactly how it works, so it's hard for me to answer that question. Yeah. But I mean, the key thing here is that they banned users, right? And you can't do that unless you're a centralized platform. No one can ban Russians from using Bitcoin, right? That's part of
depending on what you're using your Bitcoin on. So for example...
Well, if you wanted to just do a transaction, right? Move it from one cold wallet to another or something like that. No one can stop you.
If I had a Ledger wallet... Could Ledger ban people doing it because Ledger has a node for you to do transactions?
No, Ledger can't because the way they work is that it's a cold wallet, and once it's signed it, then you can broadcast that transaction pretty much anywhere.
Okay.
So like you running your own node or whatever, and ideally that's how you do it. Is you're running your own node and you have some connection.
That's ideal.
Yeah.
But not everyone's going to do that. So we had it Wasabi yesterday, which upset a few people. But they've blocked some people.
They're a centralized service, so that is possible. But you know,
but what I'm saying is, I not to pick up. Well, I have to because that's the job. But it's like, what's the difference between what Wasabi did and MetaMask did?
Well, what Wasabi is a voluntary service that's like getting into it. MetaMask is part of the Ethereum proper, if I'm not mistaken. And you know, OpenSea is like, and that's pretty much the place for NFTs, right? Like that's.
Oh yeah, I forget OpenSea. I don't care about that. I can't see a difference between Wasabi and MetaMask. I mean, I know we should be encouraging people to hold their private keys. Can you hold your private keys with Wasabi and restore to another wallet?
Yeah. And you can with MetaMask as well, I think.
You can. Okay. I just don't see a difference between the two. That's my problem.
Between MetaMask
and Wasabi, they both had the same policy.
Well, Wasabi is just the CoinJoin thing. MetaMask is the entire wallet, right? Like you can still run a Wasabi wallet because it doesn't depend on anything central. For CoinJoin, yeah, it's a small sliver of what a Wasabi does. You know, you manage your stuff or whatever. MetaMask, it's the entire service is unavailable to Russia.
I guess what people need to do is be aware of the aspects within a Bitcoin ecosystem which are centralized.
Yeah, like an exchange or whatever.
Yeah.
And those can and do, ban people for whatever reason. But the thing is, like, if it's decentralized, then you have control. If it's centralized, somebody else is in the middle. And that's the key here is self-sovereignty requires decentralization. And you can have bilateral trade instead of having some third party in the middle that approves or disapproves. And that is the key. So, all of these things that are supposedly decentralized or whatever, and this was the point I was getting to, is that they're all decentralized in name only, all these altcoins, right? They claim decentralization. And the reason why they do it, and this is in my my article this week on Bitcoin Tech Talk, my newsletter, the reason why they do that is so that the regulators won't come after them. Because there are tons of regulations around scams about like pyramid schemes and all these other things. But by claiming decentralization, that they have no center, hey, you guys shouldn't come after us because we're decentralized. But what MetaMask and OpenSea are doing, like what that's showing is that actually you are centralized and we can regulate you. And I think it's only a matter of time before that happens to Ethereum, that happens to Cardano. It's already happened to Ripple, right? The SEC is already going after
them. I thought Ethereum kind of got away with it. They're like, yeah.
Well, so
it started centralized and became decentralized.
That they're getting away at the moment. Yeah. But the thing is, regulators aren't buying this lie anymore that they're decentralized when it's clearly centralized. So at that point, it's just, okay, once the pressure builds up enough, they're going to be saying, okay, Ethereum, you need to do this, this, and this. So say this Russia conflict gets to be especially big, or say we get in, the US and the UK get involved or something like that. Say it becomes a bigger thing and we need to ban Russian accounts from every possible service that they can think of, and it becomes a bigger thing. At that point, the US government will be able to say to Ethereum, especially if some of their Bitcoin, Ethereum Foundation members are in the US or something like that, and say, hey, you need to go ban Russian users from Ethereum because we're getting reports that they are using Ethereum to transfer value out in and out and trade, go around our sanctions or something like that. At that point, they would be subject to that regulation, and it would be clear as day that they are centralized. You can't do that with Bitcoin. no matter, like they can try, and they'll certainly tell all the exchanges don't let them do it. But if there's a person in the U.S. like a relative or something like that, and they're transferring, there's nothing they can do. There's nothing they can do to prevent that.
What could they threaten the Ethereum Foundation people with? Like
jail time?
What do they want them to do?
So no transactions out of Russia, something like that.
And how would they stop that? They would have to make code changes to Ethereum?
No. So this kind of happened with the Poly network. I don't know if you remember that hack. So there was a hack about, I don't know, I want to say 7 months ago or something like that. And the Poly network, their smart contract was flawed.
I remember, yeah.
So it was like $700 million or something like that, right? And basically, if you look at their Twitter, and maybe you can even pull that up, they said, "Dear hacker, like, we have instructed everybody to not mine anything from this address or this address or this address on both Binance Chain and Ethereum, and you are not going to get any of your coins. If you hand them back, then, why don't we negotiate, basically?" And the hacker, which is really word for like smart contract lawyer, he settled for, I think it was $500,000. So one way to look at it is, it's nominally worth $600 million, settle for $500,000. So 99.9% of the value of that was in getting the central controller's permission, which in this case was the developers of the Poly network.
Damn.
Right? 99.9%. So most of it is centrally controlled. And they paid the $500,000, called them a white hat hacker, whatever, and, forgave, I guess, whatever consternation that this guy caused on the network. But that's what they would probably do, is say, okay, every miner, if you mine this, we're going to reject your block and we're going to go do something. And they have that power because, Infura is like what everybody uses for the block explorer. So if Infura doesn't follow, whatever proof of work thing was found by a particular miner, no one else is going to. That's the main one. Like, no one else cares about any other node. It's whatever Infura says. So if you can, like, it's very centralized, right? Like you can sort of, if they could do that for the Poly network, they can certainly do that because the U.S. government demands it.
It's frustrating where a project claims to be decentralized as well as claiming to be better money than Bitcoin. That's the ultimate frustration, because the power of Bitcoin is in its decentralization. So if you're claiming, one, you're better money and you're decentralized, you're arguing to people, you're making the case that you should own this coin over that coin. That does annoy me. What about a scenario? And bear in mind, I caveat this with, I've got no interest in shitcoins. Don't own any, don't intend to train any, I don't promote any. But I am also interested in like fair discussion. What if one was like, for Solana, for example, said, you know what, we're not decentralized, we admit it. We are permissionless, and we're happy to be regulated, and we are just a different alternative platform that you can build business applications on, and we have a token, but we accept we're not decentralized, we're not trying to compete with Bitcoin. Would you still consider that a shitcoin and argue against it, or would you just consider that just a platform?
Well, if they issued their own token, then there are certain things that you have to consider,
of course,
based on that, which is that they would be running afoul of all kinds of laws that exist already. Like you can't make your own currency, right? Liberty Gold, I think, was one, and there were several others where they issued their own coin based on gold, right? Like some digital form of gold, and all those people went to jail. So I would think that if they ever admitted something like that, all those people that did Solana should go to jail.
Really?
Yeah, because you're issuing your own currency that's centralized and able to be like, I mean, maybe they get away with it because like they have enough lobbying power or whatever.
Do we want them to go to jail?
Well, I don't want them want anyone to go to jail, but that's probably what would happen if they did.
But what I'm saying is like I'm trying to offer or consider the alternative argument, because I can advise people against the value of these things, But Bitcoin's got so big now. It has already won the race. I wonder if there's an alienation by overly criticizing every single project that ever exists. Would it be better to say, do you know what? Don't agree with it. I don't think it's a good project. I wouldn't put my money in there. But hey, you should consider Bitcoin. You know, because these aren't going away. We've had years and years these projects being created. Are we putting our energy in the best place?
Well, I mean, depends. Whenever people ask me about my opinion, I'm going to tell them, hey, I think it's a scam, because I think that's an accurate way to describe what these things are. It's a way for VCs to get rich. Most of them who buy insane amounts of pre-mined tokens at an extreme discount, pump the hell out of it, and then release it to the public and win money that way for their LPs or whatever. I think that's immoral. I think that's horribly bad for everybody. So I
agree on immoral. Yeah. I'm not sure scam. I agree on immoral.
Well, I think it's really immoral. If you did that with like stamps or something, that would be a Ponzi scheme. That's exactly what that guy Ponzi did. And there are pyramid schemes that are very similar or whatever. I think by any reasonable definition, that's exactly what you're doing. You're pumping up something that has no intrinsic value for the sake of profiting yourself. I think that's a scam. So, I mean, like you might say, well, we should be nicer to them or like not talk about them as badly because we're putting our energy in the wrong place. I try not to think about altcoins. It's just that a lot of people ask. And if they're going to ask, I'm going to tell them exactly what I think. And you asked, I'm delivering. That's what I'm doing.
Hey, I'm eking out the answer for the listeners. What I say doesn't matter. It's what the listeners take from this. And a number of people listening to the show have written in and said, thank you so much. I'm Bitcoin only. I've learned a lot about this. It's funny. That takes us really to this because I do want to ask about this.